welcome back, loyal Kapowians, to the final episode of Season 4. Coming at you from King's Comics, I'm Sonya.
And I'm Al, and just so we're not excluding anyone, I'd also like to welcome anybody who clicked on this link by accident when they were looking for an episode of Happy Tree Friends. Stick around. I promise what the channel lacks in exploding forest creatures, we make up for in awesome reviews of comics, cartoons, and collectibles.
We certainly do. And in today's episode, we have some special guests joining us. They're going to have a chat about their favourite comics, what they're really into and what they're really enjoying. And we're going to be giving you some great tips on how you can spend your Easter break.
Plus, I'm going to try and convince Rae to do a handstand, so that's going to be awesome.
No, that's not a good idea.
Why? What?
No.
Why not?
No.
What about if just a cartwheel?
No, I still think that's occupational health and look, he's really tall.
A star jump?
Yeah, star jump's good.
Why even bother?
Rae!
Okay, so now we are talking with Steven Bajo O'Donnell of ABC's Good Game. Great to have you back on the show again. Thanks for coming along.
Thank you for asking me.
That's awesome. Last time you came on, we had a bit of a chat about Batman.
A big chat.
Big chat about Batman. This time we are discussing Justice League from the New 52, Jeff Johns and Jim Lee, of course. Now there's been a lot of change-ups in this. There's been some origin changes. We've got Manhunter out, we've got Cyborg in. What is it about Justice League that's really got you excited?
I've always been a big Justice League fan, if not as much as Batman. And I think it's because I love how all the characters play in with each other, and I love how Batman is the voice of reason, the grumpy one of the group, you know, who goes, you can all go do your thing, and I'm gonna do my thing, and that's what I love about it. But I think it's because all the abilities and how they can just make such spectacular, in the animations, such spectacular fights, and in the comics, such spectacular panels, you know, where it's a full page spread of just everything going off, and I just put it down and take photos of it, and then pick it up again. There's a couple of things I don't like about the Justice League reboot comics. Mostly, I don't like Cyborg that much, mostly because I don't know who he is. They didn't really set up
interesting kind of. Let's chuck this guy in.
Let's give him some armor and away we go.
And away we go.
I know. I like what he does in it. I like his functionality, and I think that will fit with the Justice League really well in the comics. But I don't like how you don't know anything about the boy before he becomes the Machine. Whereas Shazam, and what they've done with him now, he's a character that I've never really been able to connect with because he's a kid, you know, he's an 8-year-old.
He's a kid.
And it's hard to relate to that, despite my immaturity. But they've set him up so well, and he's running around with like this kid who needs help, and he's finding out that crime comes to him. You know, I'm learning more about the mystical side of Shazam that I didn't really know, and it's also really dark with all the Black Adam stuff. And so I don't know that much about Shazam, but I know that I'm really liking what they're doing with it now. The other thing is Aquaman.
Of course.
People make fun of Aquaman a lot. You know,
they do,
and I get upset about that a bit because Brave and the Bold made him really cool again. I think it was a great animation series.
If a bit cheesy,
but that's.
But he was always fun. Whenever he showed up, you were kind of like, Aquaman.
It's gonna be an Aquaman episode, awesome. But now he's badass in this. You know, he's just launching things and fighting in the whole war with. Is it the war with Atlantis that's happening right? This is wherever I'm up to. This is. I haven't finished this one yet, but I love how they've made him just so cool.
Well, I was very surprised in that the first trade where he just shows up and just sharks, massive sharks, are launching into the air. I just went, okay. They made him kind of cool all of a sudden.
I thought it was a spectacular start to this as well, because it is all just, it's really action-packed.
It really is.
I don't read that many comics, you know, I read all the Batmans, the ones I can get my hands on, and I've started reading Superman, I've started reading Young Justice, but this is always the one for me because it's just so blockbuster. I can just.
But there's so many characters and so many stories, and
such big personalities, big powers.
And the
it's
big
all happening.
panels where Jim Lee's art really comes out, and you go, oh, that is awesome. I want that on my wall.
I also think I like how Wonder Woman in it, you really get to see that naive side to her because they're talking about things that she doesn't understand. And I'm sure that's in the Wonder Woman comics as well, but I just love how she's fighting with a sword a lot and all that sort of stuff, and she's really badass in this. And and there's this one panel with Superman and Wonder Woman when they meet. I don't want to spoil it for people, but obviously you know what happens. And it's incredible. You know, that whole section.
Everybody's been wanting to see that for quite some time, I think.
I
like Justice League a lot.
We're getting that.
We are. Now, you've actually brought in a Justice League that you're reading. How about you show all the loyal Kapowians how you treat the comics?
Look, I am not good at not folding things. I can't help it. And I actually did think this was a Young Justice one before I...
Okay, right.
That doesn't help.
No, it doesn't really.
Comic, dude.
But I have crumbled it a little bit. This is the first one I've crumbled. The others,
Okay.
the most I ever folded is like that, usually.
Still.
But, you know, sometimes you just need to read on the go, and in fact, a page came out of this while I was... But just look at these panels. This is what I'm talking
Yes,
about, you know?
got
just
big stuff going on. Yeah.
It's just... Yeah,
Those sort of hero moments where you
Look
got
how many-
everybody bursting out.
They're all in it.
Yeah.
And they're all doing cool stuff.
Yes,
You
every
know?
last one of them doing cool stuff.
The main reason I fold it is because they take me a long time to read, and that's what I like about them.
Yeah.
Most other comics I blast through, but here I do just put it down and I just stare at it and soak it all up. And I'm sorry I folded it.
Yeah, well, as well you should
We're gonna have to
be.
get you a fresh copy.
Thank you.
No. There was a page that came
Put it
out.
down.
I'll just put it in my pocket.
Put it back in your pocket. Thank you so much for coming on to Kapow for our 40th episode. It's pretty
Yes.
cool. And
Lovely
thank
to
you
have
for
you back.
discussing Justice League and showing us all how atrociously you treat your comic books.
Thank you for having me. At least I'm not cutting them up anymore.
That's
This is
true, that's true. We've got to
in the
step
right
up.
direction. So, Sonya,
Yes, Al.
what is going to be keeping you occupied over this Easter season?
Well, I'm actually going to be delving back into a world that I kind of lost track of for a while. It's the world of Fables.
Yes, I remember you used to be heavily into that. What happened?
Was indeed. Well, before I get into that, let me just explain a little bit for any of you who haven't been involved in the Fables world. Fables is a fabulous series written by Bill Willingham with art by Mark Buckingham, but there are a lot of other artists that have kind of come on board throughout the course of its run. The concept behind Fables is that every fairy tale you've ever heard, and even the ones you haven't heard, are real. There are dimensions where witches, ogres, and dragons live side by side, where grand viziers ride magic carpets, where rabbits wear waistcoats. It's never really stated whether we create these worlds because we tell these stories, or we tell the stories because somehow we know the world exists. It's kind of cool in its ambiguity. I really enjoy reading and trying to work it out for myself. However, the main point is that a large number of these fairy tale characters have been driven from their homes centuries ago by the armies of the adversary and have ended up in our world. Seeing how the characters interact with each other is a large part of the fun in this title. For example, finding out that the Prince Charming, who swept Snow White, Sleeping Beauty and Cinderella off their feet, was actually the same guy. Or seeing a Pinocchio who was turned into a real boy by the Blue Fairy and has stayed the same age for 300 years. And then of course we have one of my favourite central characters, Bigby Wolf, who's the sheriff of Fabletown and obviously the big bad wolf. Now please don't think that because this series is set around fairy tales that this is going to be a soft and fluffy little story. It's certainly not. It's a series that has buckets of violence, there's intrigue, there's politics, there's adventure, and that's before the adversary starts sending his minions in after the escaped fable creatures. And I think with so many characters in this wonderful world and so many different dimensions and so many different worlds, it really gives the artist a really wonderful chance to shine and show what they can do. It's really wonderful to read. But I did drop out of it, as I said, but a lot of that's got to do with the fact that I may have OD'd on trade paperbacks. I got issue number 4 and 8, 4 through to 8, and I read them all in a week and a half. It was a bit too much all at once.
Can be.
So I've decided over my Easter break, I'm going to head back on into Fabletown. I'm going to collect a few extra ones that I haven't got, maybe 9, 10, 11, 12, one for each day. That should be fine. If you haven't checked out Fables, I highly recommend you use your Easter break to have a look into the story.
Okay,
cool.
so you're going to move into new stuff. You're not just staying with the old stuff?
I'll read a little bit of the old, but mainly new, yeah.
Okay.
Sounds like you're not going to do the same thing.
Well, you know, for me, Easter is all about laying out on the couch, surrounded by chocolate wrappers and hot cross bun crumbs, and not moving much at all.
Fair enough.
So I don't want to have to be looking for new copies of things. I'm going to indulge by going back into one of my personal favourites, namely the Sandman series. Having got a hold of the complete Sandman slipcover set fairly recently, I think this Easter break is going to be a great opportunity for me to just plow entirely through the whole thing all over again.
That's a lot.
It's just such a seminal piece of work from Neil Gaiman, and especially now with Bubbling coming up, that he's working on a prequel to this series. I'm very excited, and I think it seems like a great opportunity to go back into it.
Yeah.
Now, since this is such a well-known series, I'm not going to bother giving you the breakdown.
No. I called cheat on that. We're a review show. You have to. There are people out there who haven't read Sandman.
Fine.
Go on,
Fine.
do it.
Okay, for those of you unfamiliar with the Sandman, the series revolves around an entity known as Dream, one of 7 incarnations of the Endless. His family is made up of death, despair, delirium, desire, destiny, and destruction. Of course, destruction has vanished by this point when we enter the story. Now, the series begins with Dream getting captured by a sorcerer who is actually attempting to summon death at the time. Dream is then held captive for years, causing untold damage to the world as people find themselves variously unable to dream, unable to wake up, or slowly driven insane. Now, when Dream finally escapes, he's forced into an uphill battle to retrieve the power that he's lost during his incarceration. Now, that's just the first volume of this series. Throughout the rest of the series, we see whole dimensions coming to an end. We see Lucifer quit his job. We see conflicts between immortals, and we see the potential for the whole of reality to be rewritten if enough cats dream the same thing at the same time. The Sandman is just one of those series that comes along all too infrequently.
Yeah.
It just has this dizzying array of intricate characters. It has these ideas that are almost too big to wrap your head around, and yet it's still this fantastic adventure story that carries you along with it. And look, as you were saying before with Fables, it's fantastic to find a series that really gives free rein for artists to really spread their wings.
Absolutely.
And this is another one of those.
There's a lot of artists that work on
some
Sandman.
fantastic artists over the years on this series, guys like Charles Vess, Colleen Durant. There's been so many great artists that's worked on this that they've all left their mark on the Sandman as they've gone along. So look, if you haven't read the Sandman, then please promise me you'll get into it. And if you have, do like I do. Choose to use this break to actually get back into it. And you know what you said, 4 till 8 was too. I'm going to go 1 through to 10 on this one, and I don't think it's going to be a problem at all.
I don't think so.
So that's how I'm spending my Easter.
Awesome. Okay, we are talking to Rae Johnston, who is the lifestyle editor of TechLife and general geek girl. Thank you for coming on and joining us on Kapow today.
Not a problem, thanks for having me.
Well, now you've come on today, we're talking about Wonder Woman in the New 52.
Absolutely.
Now, Diana's reboot has been handled by Brian Azzarello, one of my personal faves,
Indeed.
so that's always great to see. Also with Cliff Chiang and Tony Aiken on art, so a lot of good stuff there. There have been a few changes with this reboot. What have been your thoughts on how it's rolled out?
Absolutely. Well, one of the major changes is obviously that Wonder Woman has no longer been formed out of clay and then bestowed gifts from the gods. She's actually a demigod herself, which is really, really cool, and it kind of adds to her character a lot, and it makes a lot of sense with a lot of the powers that she has.
Absolutely.
All those sorts of things. And of course, Amazonian women.
Yeah.
They're no longer immortal.
Yeah.
And this plays into the story quite heavily. But I have to say, my interest in Wonder Woman only peaked fairly recently, because up until now, she's been this very Americanized, kind of yay and super feminine, almost cheerleading type of we're going to make a girl tough sort of thing. And it didn't really sit well with me. But having seen artwork recently, actually, for the Injustice game, drew my attention to Wonder Woman. I went, hang on a minute.
This is different. This is very different.
She actually looks like she can kick butt. So I started looking into it more, found the New 52 series, and it's
Fell in love.
beautiful. Yeah, her character in particular in this is fantastic.
She's really, really quite interesting, because they have still kept the humanity and the kind of compassion of Wonder Woman, but they have made her hardcore as well, which is great.
She's scary.
She is.
Well, she comes across as quite troubled as well, sort of trying to find her place in the world, and obviously, as you say, the revelations as to her parenthood really kind of throws her even into even more turmoil, which is great for the story.
She has a real vulnerability, so she has a likability as well as this toughness. So it's really nice to see her evolve. But I picked up an issue and then went, oh wait, hang on, I don't know where I'm at. So
I have to start
You actually have to start at the beginning with this, but it's
Absolutely.
well worth it.
Now, the art style in this is quite different to what we've seen from Wonder Woman as well. We were discussing a little bit earlier about how she's actually a little ethnic now. She looks Greek, which kind of makes sense. Whereas before, she's always been that real kind of apple pie American girl.
Yeah.
Do you think that really works now with, you know, she's found her place with her ethnicity as well?
Absolutely. It is really nice to see that multiculturalism.
It is.
And as we were discussing a little earlier, it does kind of resemble that pottery, that Greek pottery.
There are
style.
some amazing panels that you kind of go, that could be on an urn.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
No,
in
it's
terms
really
of the
interesting.
tones that they've used and the colours and everything as well, I think plays into that same sort of area. And it's even more interesting, I think, you know, it starts off with you've got centaurs and stuff and fights and things, but then when it changes over and she's actually in the regular world, going to a
in a
club
club.
and things like that, seeing that same art style there is a really interesting contrast. And
Absolutely.
very good for the story.
It's a lot grittier in both worlds, so it does actually carry over quite well. It has lost that kind of shine.
It has.
It's no longer
and it is a
squeaky
lot
clean.
darker. It'd actually be really, really nice to see Nolan make a film of this.
Well, yeah.
Well, this is the other thing. I mean,
If you're watching, Christopher.
I know someone who could happily play Wonder Woman for you. I'll build up my muscles, I promise.
we've been waiting for a Wonder Woman movie for so long, and I honestly think
been
this
failed
could
attempts.
be a great storyline for it to follow.
I think it would work.
It's very interesting. It brings in a lot of mythology. It brings in a lot of strength from the female characters as well. I think it would work.
Because striking a balance with that sort of still compassionate but a strong female
Strong
character,
female.
a lot of people have sort of stumbled on that
Yeah.
when they've tried to put it into film, and I think maybe this is the way to go. Maybe
it
this you know,
is.
it's a roadmap.
Fingers crossed that's going to
Let's hope.
happen. Thank you, Rae, so much for coming on and having a chat with us. We really love it, and we hope that other people like Wonder Woman as much as you do, because you obviously love this.
I got this one at home.
It's a great statue.
It's a brilliant statue. It's beautiful. So, Rae, what is your recommendation for this 4-day Easter break? That
Well,
we have?
And look, no, before you start, don't even start to tell me that I have to watch all of Bleach. Because I'm planning on getting at least some sleep.
Yeah, I understand. No, I wouldn't do that to you. And I'm not sure if you'd get through even half finishing that
Not in 4
series
days.
either.
No.
It's pretty huge. But that's an interesting point you raised, because time was definitely a major element in trying to decide what to watch. I decided on Steins Gate as a recommendation. It's been released in 2 parts. The second part, the second collection, has just been released, and it's a hypothetical science adventure. Now, its origins are somewhat different to most anime. It started as a visual novel by 5PB Games, and then it moved on to becoming a video game, then a manga series, and then finally an anime series in 2011 by White Fox. Now, White Fox, if you remember, did Yamungan, which we reviewed in season 3.
Absolutely, which is pretty cool. But what is Steins Gate about? Explain to us, Rae.
Well, I'd really like to tell you, but a lot of these plot points are critical to the story, so
You don't want to
instead...
spoil anything.
No, I don't. So instead I'll just set the scene for you all, okay? On July 28, 2010, 18-year-old Rintaro Akabe and his friend Mayuri Shina head towards the Radio Kaiken building for a conference where Rintaro finds a girl named Kurisu Makase lying in a pool of blood. As Rintaro sends a text message about this incident to his friend Ichiro Hashida, he experiences a strange phenomenon, and then the people around him just disappear with no one else noticing anything had changed at all. Later, he runs into Kurisu again, who is strangely alive and well. Then he discovers the message that he had sent to Ichiro arrived a week before he sent it. Now, Rintaro soon deduces that the mobile microwave he and his friends had been developing is, in fact, a time machine capable of sending text messages to the past. Now, they learn that CERN, an organization that has been researching that's time travel for some time, has actually succeeded in sending humans into the past, although it seems that all these test subjects die. Now, Rintaro begins experimenting with these D-mails, short for DeLorean mail, which I thought was quite nice, and this begins to cause major differences in the timeline, of course. Now, Kurisu, in the present, also manages to create a device to send a person's memories through the microwave, allowing that person to effectively leap into the past. Now, is it possible to save the life of Kurisu in the future? The plot gets richer and increasingly clever as Rintaro, attempts to change the future for the betterment of himself and of course those around him, but also perhaps mankind itself. Now, the characters they're really strong. They're much more three-dimensional than a lot of the other anime that you'll see out there, and that's really attractive, especially our protagonist, Rintaro, who is a self-proclaimed mad scientist referring to himself under the alias of Kyoma Huin. He gives off this appearance of being delusional and paranoid, frequently referring to the organization that is after him, talking to himself on his phone, and engaging in fits of maniacal laughter. The animation is attractive and the voices are excellent, but what is most notable in this series is the sound. At the beginning of the series, there aren't a lot of sound effects. The soundtrack itself is quite bare. There's a strong presence of cicadas, and then in between those moments, there's a terrific use of silence is employed, and that adds, those extra dimensions to the suspense, of course, but it also makes those other little sound effects, like opening a door, really pop as well. But as we journey deeper, we're graced with the presence of these wonderful piano and orchestral pieces, which add another wonderful dimension to the intricate plot line as well. And this anime has been basically critically acclaimed. It's been described as one of the most addictive sci-fi thrillers in recent anime history.
Wow.
And it's a big call.
That is,
but
yeah.
I'm inclined to agree.
Cool.
It consists of 24 episodes, and they're all under 25 minutes long, which makes it a perfect candidate for our 4-day adventure. And it's also an excellent, terrific anime. I highly recommend it. The director, Hiroshi Hamasaki, has done an excellent job. It's only a couple of points shy from a masterpiece, in my opinion.
Wow.
Yep.
Big cool.
That's right. Some would say it's fresh. I would say it's fresh indeed.
Of course you would.
Good to hear.
It sounds amazing,
It
though.
does sound
it does
really
sound
good
like
to
a
me
really
as
cool
well.
thing to
I
do.
might
Yeah.
have to check that out.
It was either that or I was going to buy a statue and just stare at it for 4 days.
No, right, no.
And now we welcome to the show Ryan Huff, the editor of the Geek of Oz. Welcome to the show. Thanks for coming along.
No, thanks for having me.
It's wonderful. Now, we have been discussing a lot of DC Universe
Been a
worlds.
bit of a thing today,
yes. But you have come along with something a little bit different, something a bit close to my heart, independent comics, which I always adore. And this particular one is from Gestalt, and it's written by long-term Kapowian Tom Taylor and James Brower, and it is, of course, The Deep we are discussing. Now, we had a look at this in our sci-fi special,
we did,
and we obviously really love it. So, Ryan, what is it about The Deep that really gets you into it?
Well, as anyone would know if they've read Geek of Oz in the last, say, 2 years, The Deep is more than just a love for me, it's an infatuation.
Right.
I can't speak highly enough about it, and this latest volume, I have to say, it's probably better than the first.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the Vanishing Island that's recently come out. So
Correct.
you're feeling like it's gone a step further.
It has gone a step further. I was actually tweeting, which I tweet probably a bit too much, but I
No
was,
such thing.
no, not at all. I was tweeting to Tom Taylor the other day, and he kind of quietly agreed with me that, from my perspective, I feel as though the first episode was the setup. You meet the family, you go on their first adventure, but the second one's really the payoff.
Yeah, right.
It's fantastic. I mean, the thing that I love about it is that it's an all ages book.
Sure.
It's always nice when you come across an all ages book like this, because we discuss all ages art. It's kind of something that's close to my heart, because I've got nieces and nephews who like reading this kind of thing as well. So it's nice when you come across one that's so intelligently written for both the younger and for the olders. It's really kind of cool. I like that about this.
Yeah, and the big thing about an all ages book and the big thing about The Deep is that it's all ages. It's not for kids, it's
Nope.
not for adults.
It is for
Yeah.
everyone.
For everyone. There's something to take from this book. It's so beautifully written. It's so beautifully illustrated as well. James Brewer, he is something else. you
It's
know?
amazing, isn't
Well,
it?
He sort of came from nowhere
It's
as well.
and he's just got such a lovely touch with these characters and also with the world that they inhabit.
Yeah.
And with something like this, where it's got such that nature element to it, you got the deep sea stuff. You really want somebody who's going to be able to bring that level of detail and that level of quality to the artwork.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely in there, I think.
And I mean, it's definitely a tip of the hat. The fact that this guy can make just Black Sea incredible.
Incredible,
Yeah.
and a little bit scary, a little bit dangerous, because you are kind of sitting there, because you feel like you're in the little submarine with them, and there's all this black, and it's like, what's out there?
Yeah, what's gonna happen?
I'm a bit scared.
In that first volume, it was a bit scary when the thing. I don't want to ruin it for
Yeah,
anyone,
in case you
but when
haven't
the
seen it,
thing
when
comes,
it first
Yep.
shows up, I caught my breath a little bit. I gotta say,
yeah, it was quite scary. I definitely feel as though the best thing about the Deep though is that there's no conflict.
Yeah.
Which generally that's the pinnacle of a good story.
It's true.
You know, you have the conflict and resolution, but in this, there's no conflict in terms of a fight or anything like that. There's tension. They build the tension,
They do.
and there's something going on there. It does get resolved, of course.
Of course.
But at the end of the day, it's just heartwarming.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, and there's so many messages to take away from it, whether it's an environmental message or that it's about an interracial family.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, it's not shoved down your throat.
Yeah, you're never beaten over the head by any sort of message that it's trying to push. That's true. I really enjoy the fact that it is an overarching mystery as well. There's there's a long term that I think they're playing to in this, as well as the contained stories that they're doing.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know about yourself, but when I opened this book, and I even just the front covers, I looked at that and I thought, this is Sequest DSV crossed with Ben 10, and there's no reason that shouldn't be.
There's nothing wrong with
that. That's
that.
gotta be fun to start with. And it's interesting you mentioned Ben 10 because, of course, now there's an animated series going to be coming out of the Deep as well.
Yeah, there is. Now, hopefully, we'll be seeing some of that soon. I've only ever seen the one image, the CGI cover, more or less. But it's looking great, and there's no more deserving book. I mean, there's a lot of great Australian books out there at the moment.
Yep,
and
definitely.
Gestalt responsible for a lot of
A
them.
lot of them.
great for
It's a
getting that
great
content out
independent
there.
publishing
Yeah.
house, that one.
Absolutely.
Not all of them are quite so family friendly. You know, Eldritch Kid and Torn are fantastic, but I wouldn't give them to kids.
No, not at all.
No, not
But
many
the
circumstances.
Deep is one that they have kind of really managed to tap into that all ages, really beautifully done, really deftly written, and with the animation coming out, I think it's going to just take it that extra level. It's going to be really cool.
I think it's going to be one of those things that get on board now because it's going to be something huge.
It's going to be huge.
Yeah.
You want to be able to say, oh, you know,
I was reading
I knew
that.
about it when it was a comic. you know.
Please. Well before it was the game and it was the movie.
And now I have all the toys, and now
And I
I've
got a goldfish.
Yeah, and I've got a tentacle tattooed on my chest, and it's a bit weird,
Yeah.
maybe a bit too far. But
I have
still.
seen a picture of somebody who's done that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Anywho, thank you so much, Ryan, for coming on and celebrating our 40th episode of Kapow, which
my
we
pleasure.
always love, and for talking about such a beautiful independent title.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed that one.
My pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Ryan. Well, that's it, guys. We have come to the end of season 4 of Kapow. It has been brilliant. We've had a lot of fun. We've read some amazing comics. We've watched some pretty cool cartoons. We've seen some pretty phenomenal collectibles
comics?
as well. Yeah.
I thought you guys reviewed cakes.
Why would we review cakes?
It's cupcakes, cartoons, and collectibles.
No, it's comics, cartoons, and collectibles. Why do you
Since
think we're
when?
at King's Comics?
King's... It's King's Cupcakes. Love Cake and King's Cupcakes.
I don't think Ray even watches the show.
No, I don't.
Why would I
do-
watch the show?
Do you not stick around when we're doing our segment?
No. I'm not interested in cake. But I brought you guys a cake just because you review cakes.
That's not even a cupcake, Ray.
I mean,
You should see the size of the cup it was baked in.
Okay, look, it's a very nice cake, but
we'll explain.
we're going to have
in
to
a
explain
minute.
this to him very slowly.
Yeah.
But make sure you head on over to sftv.com.au, where this week we're looking at a Donatello one-shot and also the first book of Age of Ultron. So that's going to be great.
Indeed.
Strangest names for cakes.
Neither of which are
They're
cakes.
not cakes. We also got to say a big thank you to King's Comics and to Lovestack for helping us get this far. It's been brilliant.
Yes.
Don't
Brilliant.
forget to keep in contact with us on Facebook and Twitter. We like hearing what you're reading. We love listening to what you're watching.
Yeah.
And until next time, guys, see you later.
I'm gonna check out the
It's
show
not-
for the first time ever.
Yeah, it's not. It's comics. It's not cakes.
I'm giving this a buy.
Yeah.
Lots
it
of
is.
M&Ms.
It's a buy.
It's a buy.
Well done, Ray.
Thanks.